The Milan derby, the biggest game on the schedule for the Lone Tracker, undoubtedly. AC Milan versus Inter Milan at the San Siro, and huge game for Brahim returning because he's kind of thrown into this fire in one of the most passionate historical derbies in football history. So let's start there, Matt. Brahim starting in the 10 role, his preferred role, the one has done so well this season. Obviously, this is also on the back of getting called up to the national team, which was huge news and one that was much deserved for him. He's earned it. He's been one of the best Spanish attacking midfielders this season in all of Europe. He's been outstanding. So let's start there. AC Milan won, Inter Milan won. What did you think of Brahim's performance?
Yeah, well, as you said, I definitely think the call up to Spain squad was well deserved. I was really happy to see that. And this one was interesting. I wouldn't say Brahim played great. Like I think you kind of mentioned it. Like rust was there. He's coming back from injury. It's still, or not injury, but COVID. And he still wasn't his best performance. I think part of the reason for that was Pioli, interestingly, played him with Krusic, I think is how you say it, and Brahim was forced to play a little bit more wide. Like sometimes he'd be in that number 10 role, but a lot of times he was hedged towards the right wing. And I've grown to really like him in the number 10 role. I think that's where he thrives. He's so good turning and just running at defenders and being aware of being in between the lines and being aware of the space around him and just having those quick, tight touches in tight spots. And I feel like he's way more effective there now. I've been converted, and maybe this is just partly because one, he hasn't played in a while, and two, he hasn't played in that position in a while. So I felt like he just wasn't as effective. It was tough for him to get into the game. What I thought was kind of crazy was the ref never gave him any calls. I mean, I felt like he was getting manhandled a couple times, and just because he was smaller, the ref didn't give him any calls, and Brahim was going crazy, like asking, "Where's the call? Where's the call?" And I just felt like he couldn't stamp his authority on this match like he usually does. And in fairness to him, like I thought Inter were actually really good, better than I expected. And it was a pretty even affair, and maybe that's part of the reason why.
You bring up a good point that it wasn't a pure 10 role, and it was quite interchangeable with Krunic, and Krunic played down the middle actually primarily. But I think the weird, like I don't mind Brahim as a winger. Obviously, I mean, like it's true that we've grown fond of him in the 10 role, but that doesn't mean he's bad in the winger role. He's actually quite good in the winger role. I think part of the trouble was in this game didn't seem like either a winger or a 10, if that makes sense. Like it's not like
Yeah.
he spent that much time on the right wing either. Like it's not like he was a pure attacking left winger like Leao was on the other side, for example. I also
Yeah.
found that one interesting thing that was happening in this game, and I think maybe that it felt like maybe that contributed to his lack of, I guess, attacking input. Like I feel like most games he's much more involved than he was here. And I think part of it was like he actually spent a lot of time kind of just almost alongside Zlatan or even ahead of Zlatan. That was just a thing that happened commonly in this game, where Zlatan would drop deeper, and there were times even when Zlatan was on the right wing, getting cross balls into the box, and Brahim was in the box, which obviously that seems completely counterintuitive. And I think that was part of the reason that he got isolated, because also when he made runs into the box, which he made a lot of in this game, he actually didn't get the ball either. And, I think that was part of it. There were a few times where he was even playing on the shoulder of Inter's defensive line, waiting for a through ball he didn't get. And obviously, like when he did get it, his passing wasn't that crisp either. His through balls weren't that good. He had a couple of his square passes intercepted, which caused Inter to break the other way. In a game like this, I give him the benefit of the doubt. Not necessarily because it's Inter. Like I have full confidence in him in a big game, so I don't think that's the issue. But I do think coming back from COVID, I mean, hell, I have no idea what that's like. I've never actually contracted COVID as far as I know, and certainly if I had and came back from it, I don't think that would be an easy thing to do. So I just kind of chalk this one up to Matt, like let him just get acquainted to his surroundings again. Let him regain match fitness. He played 58 minutes in this one, and just couldn't really get involved. It seemed.
I think it always takes players at least like 2 to 3 games minimum to get back into like finding their rhythm, get their form going again.
And that's
And so
without
this is
COVID.
only
I mean, that's just
yeah, and that's
normal.
without
Yeah.
COVID. Yeah, seriously. And so it's only been like his second game, not even full game. So yeah, to your point, I think we can put this down to just coming back from injury and a little bit of a different setup for Milan too. So maybe that's part of it. But AC Milan, I mean, they've really. I'm like having watched this team since Pioli took over. Like we kind of got on board right when the shift started, and they started just gaining momentum and earning a lot of victories. And I mean, now they're top of the table right now, along with Napoli, and they've got a pretty big gap between them and Inter. Inter's in third place; they're tied for first with Napoli, and there's a 7 point gap. So. They're doing really well. Unfortunately, they're not. It hasn't translated in the Champions League right now. I don't think they even have a. I think they may have a point, or not even that, in their Champions League group table. So they're probably going to bounce out of that. But it'd be nice to see Brahim and AC Milan do big things in Serie A. Maybe win the title this year. That'd be awesome.
Was there anything outside of Brahim's performance about this game in particular that you thought was interesting or stood out to you, or maybe even bizarre, like anything?
I thought the whole narrative with Kagenlu was kind of interesting, especially because from what I've gathered and when we played them, like he really hasn't found a good role at Inter Milan, and they haven't been able to figure out where to play him and how to get the best out of him. And they paid him a pretty hefty salary as a free agent this summer to come over, obviously from arch rivals AC Milan, and so. The fact that he took that, I think he earned the penalty. He took the penalty, scored it, celebrated like no other. I thought he had a pretty good game actually overall, and so to see that was interesting, especially given like Brahim's the one he replaced Kagenlu in essence, took his number, took that spot, and everything.
Yeah, I mean, Çalhanoğlu was a really good player at Milan last year, but I still like when I look at the two, there was one thing that stood out to me between him and Brahim, and that he can't carry the ball up the field the way Brahim can. He can't. He can do a lot of things. He's a good playmaker, but he doesn't have the same like offensive oomph, the ability to take players on and just run down the field and bring it in transition the way Brahim can. But I suppose it was interesting to me that he celebrated that way as well. One thing to me, you sounded like you were about to say something that was more on topic. Was there something that you were about to interject with? Because I heard you breathe.
The only thing I was you heard me breathe. The only thing I was gonna say is how bad and this really isn't on topic, but I mean it's part of the game. How bad was Paulo Torre in that defensive sequence where he gave away the penalty? That was oh my God! I haven't seen such bad defending in a long time.
Well, he was bad overall. Like there was
yeah, he was terrible. He looked way out of his depth. Like I've never seen a player that looked like they just really don't belong in this game.
So his bad defending was what leads to the second penalty kick, because there was two penalties, right?
Yeah.
So the first one was equally bizarre to me. I mean, it wasn't necessarily as bad as Paulo Torre's sequence, but it was pretty just bizarre where Kessie was just dribbling into his box. It was because when you look at the replay, especially, it looks like he is the striker attacking his own box, and he dribbles into his box and gets dispossessed. And so Çalhanoğlu scores that one, right? And then he doesn't take the second one and delegates it to Lautaro, who misses. Did you have any thoughts on the psychology behind that?
I don't know. I mean, I don't. I think I would have given it to Kagenlu again, but it's weird. I don't know. I think Lautaro maybe as a striker just wanted to take it, be a guy that gets on the score sheet and maybe switch it up since Kagenlu already took a PK. That's my only assessment.
Yeah, it's one of those things that if Lautaro scores that, which likely also happens, then we're calling this a genius move because it gives Lautaro confidence. And if he misses, then we're criticizing it. So I don't really have a strong opinion about it, but I thought that was interesting. Um, was there anything else? I don't think so. Oh, just that I noted at halftime, Rafael Leo had 4 shots, 4 completed dribbles. But I think there was a case that the reason he had 4 shots is because he actually looked off Brahim twice in the box, who was wide open. And I think the pass to him was a little bit more difficult than maybe it looked in live time. But I did think there was a couple of moments where Brahim really should have had the ball in the box and just didn't get it from his teammates. Let's move to, so these next couple ones I'm going to rely on you a little bit. I'm going to go into interview mode. You had high praise for Alvaro Odriozola versus Juve on Twitter, which conflicts wildly with the brutal piece I wrote about him this week, where Ohm commented on Slack. He's like, "Wow, you really showed no mercy towards Odriozola there." So I wrote about Odriozola in my column, and maybe he read it. I don't know. And I have not watched this game. I have seen highlights. I saw him do some fancy things on the right wing and try to set people up in the box. I didn't think his defensive highlights looked good in this game. So what was your read on that? Can you elaborate on your tweet?